Hi guys, how are you doing? This is Guilherme Lima, and I'm here today to talk about my latest book, whose title is First Principles Project Risk Management, which is released on September 17th on Amazon website, on Kindle format, Kindle Unlimited, and also unprinted version. The book is comprised of 13 chapters. We have chapters with a theoretical background where I show the readers where the theories, what are the theories and where the methods that I create came from and where they are based upon. And also we have practical applications, the case studies, where I progressively introduce you the methodology and you can learn a lot about these methods. And as the many other students I have had in the past, you became amazed by the results we get and the depth of information about the risks you have never had before. And finally, I will be playing for you a podcast that I created using Google's NotebookLM. It is an experimental application available on the internet where I uploaded the contents of my book to its environment. And it is amazing how easy we can create and extract lots of information from the material, and also is also capable of creating a podcast that is whose contents is amazing. Okay, so stay tuned and see you soon.
Ever wish you had like a crystal ball when you're starting a new project?
Uh-huh.
Just to see all the things that could go wrong?
Oh, yeah.
Well, today's deep dive isn't quite magic, but it's close.
Okay.
We're going to be diving into First Principles Project Risk Management by Guilherme Pereira Lima.
Okay.
And this book is seriously a wild ride.
Mm-hmm.
So get this, we're talking about using the wisdom of Aristotle.
Right.
Like the Aristotle.
Yeah.
And the smarts of AI like ChatGPT to manage risks on projects.
Yeah, it's a fascinating approach, and I think it really gets at something that people who work on projects or manage projects really struggle with, which is that so much of traditional risk management gets stuck dealing with symptoms and doesn't actually dig down into the root causes.
Yeah, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken bone. You're not really solving the problem.
Right.
You're just kind of trying to like cover it up.
You're just putting out fires all the time.
Exactly. And Lima argues that to really get ahead of these risks, we need to channel our inner philosophers.
Yeah, precise.
A little bit of Plato, a little bit of Aristotle.
Exactly. He introduces this idea of first principles thinking,
Okay.
which is about breaking down complex problems into their simplest, most fundamental truths.
So I'm intrigued, but how do we actually use this first principles thinking?
So it's about asking why until you can't ask it anymore.
Okay.
So instead of saying, like, will this construction project face pushback from the community?
Okay.
You ask, what role does this land play in the community's life?
Oh.
How might our project impact that?
So you're getting to that deeper context.
Exactly.
Why behind the what?
Exactly.
I like it. Okay.
Come on.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Lima discovered that he could use AI, specifically ChatGPT, to help with this process.
It's wild, right?
Okay, wait, ChatGPT as like a philosopher's assistant?
But no.
I'll be honest, I'm a little skeptical.
So was I at first?
Okay.
I was too. But what Lima found is that by prompting ChatGPT with questions that were based on Aristotle's four causes theory,
Okay.
which we'll dig into a little bit later,
Okay.
he was able to uncover insights that he just hadn't considered before.
Hold on. 4 causes. I'm not gonna. That sounds a little intimidating.
Yeah, it sounds very academic, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, no, but it's actually pretty simple.
Okay.
So imagine like you're baking a cake.
Yeah.
The material cause would be like the ingredients, right? So flour, sugar, eggs.
Okay.
The formal cause would be the recipe,
Okay.
the specific arrangement of those ingredients.
Gotcha.
The efficient cause would be you, the baker. You're the one actually mixing and baking everything.
Yep.
And the final cause.
Yeah.
That's the delicious cake itself.
Yeah.
That's the purpose.
Right. The ultimate goal.
Exactly. Of all that effort.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this applies outside of the kitchen.
Yeah.
So we're not just looking at what might go wrong in a project,
Right.
but why it might go wrong.
Yes.
And we're looking at it from these different angles.
And that's really key.
Okay, but how does ChatGPT actually help us do that?
Well, that's where we jump into a real-world example.
Okay.
Lima actually walks us through a case study in the book, and it's the construction of a photovoltaic power plant
Okay.
on a dam in Lumiere, Brazil.
Okay, so we're picturing a dam.
Yeah.
This is a real place.
This is a real place.
Lumiere, Brazil.
It's beautiful there.
And they're going to build a power plant on top of it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just automatically some tension right there.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of potential for conflict there, for sure.
Yeah, because if you're a community and you've got this dam and it's vital to your community,
Right.
and then somebody's like, hey, we're going to put a power plant on top of that.
Exactly.
I'm guessing people have some thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, you can say that again.
All right. So this is where things start to get really interesting, right?
This is where it's good.
So we're going to dive into this example a whole lot more when we come back in part 2. All right, so we're back. And we've got this dam in Brazil.
Yeah.
It's vital to this local community.
Right.
And now this big photovoltaic power plant is being proposed.
Yeah. It's a big
It
project.
sounds like a recipe for tension, right?
Oh, absolutely. You've got the community, and they depend on this dam. It's huge for them, for fishing, for tourism.
Right, like their whole livelihood is kind of based around this.
Exactly. Their connection to this dam runs really deep.
Yeah.
It's part of their way of life.
It's their identity.
Exactly.
Right.
And on the other side, you have the company that's going to be building this plant,
Right.
and they're focused on, the practicalities of it.
Right.
Like, how do we maximize the energy output? How do we minimize land use?
They're looking at the bottom line.
Exactly. And those two viewpoints often clash.
They do clash of priorities. So how does Lima's approach help, untie this knot?
So he starts by doing what we talked about.
Okay.
He identifies a major risk, and that risk is community resistance
Okay, makes sense.
to the project.
They're going to resist this change.
Of course. So to understand this risk, he looks at it through the lens of those 4 causes.
The 4 causes? All right, let's do it.
All right, so for the material cause,
Okay.
he asks, what are the physical resources
Right.
that are most at stake for this community?
Okay, so we're talking about the actual tangible thing,
Tangible things, exactly.
like the water.
The water, the fish populations, is the dam like a really beautiful place that draws tourists?
Right, so that natural beauty, that's a resource.
Exactly, and that's something that, the community relies on.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you so far.
Okay, so then we move to the formal cause.
Formal cause. Okay.
So this is where he starts to examine how the project is actually being presented to the community.
Okay.
Is there transparency? Are they being open and honest about the potential impacts?
Are they being upfront with them?
Right. Are they listening to the community's concerns, or are they just, trying to push their approvals?
Gotcha. So even just the way they're going about it
Exactly. The formal cause, how they're doing it, can be a risk.
can be a risk in itself.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Okay, what about the efficient cause?
Okay, so the efficient cause.
This is the who, right?
This is the who exactly. So he's looking at who's making the decisions about this project.
Okay.
Are they really taking the community's needs into consideration?
Yeah. Are they prioritizing the people?
Or are they just prioritizing profit above all else?
It's like that saying, who watches the watchman?
Exactly.
You have to look at the decision makers as a potential source of risk, too.
You got it.
Yeah.
And then finally, the final cause.
Okay. The final cause.
The why behind the project.
Okay.
Is this project actually aligned with the community's well-being?
Yeah. Is this actually going to benefit them in the long run?
Exactly. Is it about providing clean energy in a way that lifts everybody up? Or is it just about, lining somebody's pockets?
Okay. So we're asking the tough questions.
The tough questions.
I like it. All right. So by applying the 4 causes,
Yeah.
we're getting a much deeper understanding of what the risks are.
Way beyond the surface level.
Not just the symptoms, but the disease.
Exactly.
But here's where I think it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Remember we talked about ChatGPT,
Yeah.
our philosopher's assistant?
Oh, yeah.
So they're actually taking these questions,
Yeah.
these 4 causes questions, and they're plugging them into ChatGPT.
That's right. And that's where things get really wild.
Okay, so tell me more about this, because I have to admit, I'm very curious and a little skeptical.
I was too.
Okay, so walk me through this. How are they actually using ChatGPT with these 4 causes questions?
So picture this, right? You're typing into ChatGPT and you're like, okay, ChatGPT. Let's say we're looking at the material cause of community resistance to this power plant. what resources are really the most at stake here.
Okay.
And what Lima found is that when you frame those questions in that way, ChatGPT, with its massive knowledge base, can actually synthesize that information and come back with these really surprising insights.
Give me an example. What kind of surprising insights are we talking about here?
So in the case of this dam project, ChatGPT actually highlighted the potential impact on local fish species,
Okay.
which honestly hadn't really been a major talking point before.
Interesting.
But as it turns out, the dam, when it was originally built, actually changed fish migration patterns.
Oh,
And the power plant could make that even worse.
oh no.
Which is a huge deal because for this community, fish are their main food source.
It's their livelihood.
Exactly.
Wow. So ChatGPT like uncovered this hidden risk that nobody had even thought about just by analyzing it through the lens of the four causes.
Exactly. It's like having a research assistant who has read every study about dams and ecology and community impact.
That's incredible. Okay, so that's pretty cool, but it gets even better because Lima takes this a step further.
Oh.
He introduces this whole other layer of using ethical considerations and specifically using Aristotle's virtues.
Right. So we're talking about bringing ethics into project management.
Hold on, I need a minute to wrap my head around this.
Yeah.
So we're talking about like courage, honesty, all of that.
Oh,
We're applying that to like spreadsheets and timelines.
it sounds kind of crazy.
It does sound kind of crazy.
But it works because what Lima found is that when he started prompting ChatGPT with these virtues, it added this whole other dimension to the analysis.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example.
So, for example, he might ask ChatGPT, let's think about the virtue of justice. How can this project make sure that the community is being treated fairly?
Okay, so it's almost like instead of just looking at the data, ChatGPT is now being asked to think about the ethical implications.
Exactly.
Wow. What happened when he did that?
Well, it led to some really interesting solutions.
Oh,
So, like, with the virtue of justice, ChatGPT actually suggested a community ownership model for the power plant,
wow.
where the local community would actually own a part of the power plant and benefit directly from the energy that it was producing.
That's a really cool idea.
Right, and that's something that hadn't even crossed Lima's mind.
That's amazing.
Right.
So by like blending ancient philosophy with this cutting-edge AI, they were able to not just identify risks, but come up with these really creative and more ethical solutions.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
a whole new way of thinking about problem solving.
Okay, so this has been fascinating. I have to say, I came in a little skeptical,
I did too.
but I am leaving a believer in the power of Aristotle and ChatGPT.
It's a powerful combination.
So for our listener out there, what's the key takeaway here? What should they walk away with after this deep dive?
I think the big takeaway here is that wisdom, whether it's ancient wisdom or even artificial wisdom, can be so powerful when it comes to navigating risks and making good decisions. So don't be afraid to ask those why questions, dig a little deeper, challenge your assumptions, and you know what? You might just surprise yourself with what you discover.
I love that. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into First Principles Project Risk Management. Thanks for joining us on this thought-provoking journey. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to the book and other resources.
Until next time, keep asking those big questions.